Hi, so my name's Adele Levine, and this is my second video on my relaunch here on YouTube of my channel. I'm an intuitive and a medium, and to kind of get, I don't want to go waste our time here together on going over that again. You can watch the other video I posted. It has a little intro of me and the subject of spirits and ghosts. We're just going to launch right in. I'm going to do the best I can to launch right in to the subject today, which is the truth about hauntings. Now, I want to just kind of do a little welcoming and a little hello to everyone in the sense that all is welcome, all beliefs are welcome, as long as we're respectful to each other. Everybody has a different take and understanding. I'm completely fine with that, including people who are skeptical and who call themselves skeptics. I completely welcome that. You should always question everything, and you should always question everyone, and take what I'm about to tell you as my understanding that I've come to be explained, and my experiences through the other realm. This isn't really like a class or a book I read that I'm going to go over with you, but it's my own personal experiences of over 15 years of dealing with that world. I'm an intuitive and a medium, and the medium part of me, of course, is talking to spirits and dealing with the underworld. So let's get into it. All right. So the truth about hauntings, in my experience, people tend to throw that term quite a bit around, and if there's some activity in their home, if they have any little activity, or they even have an experience where they have seen something, they'll believe, that okay, that place is haunted. Even if it's like one night at a hotel and you saw something, of course it doesn't hurt that someone tells you, oh, that place is haunted. The truth is, spirits are not attached to places, so let's just get that out of the way. They're not attached to places. Kind of imagine that, I don't know, you won like over $1 billion. You now have financial freedom. Let's say some miraculous way you're never going to get sick again. And all you need to do is kind of go live in this island to experience that, where pretty much all the normal worries that you have about this place doesn't really adhere to your life anymore, meaning like you don't need to go to the grocery store, you don't need to eat, you pretty much are kind of like this miraculously immortal, well taken care of person. You're not exactly going to go, well, I need to be attached to the apartment that I grew up in. However, what you are going to do is, one, you're going to go, I would like to tell everybody if they come to this island, not saying they're like, come pass away, but saying like there is something like this exists. But, they want to kind of give the message like, hey, I didn't disappear. I'm just living in this pretty, unusual way that doesn't allow me to touch base with the world I used to be in. Because if I do, I kind of lose this magic, so to speak. Now, that's like a really big stretch analogy, but it is kind of the concept. It's not that people are done with here, and it's also not that people are stuck here. It's more that when people pass, they're kind of like, hey, I want to come and let you know that, I am existing. I didn't just disappear, and I'm just trying to get your attention. So very, very subtle activities, and there's going to be many subject matters I'm going to have to cover on under different umbrellas. Like, the truth about hauntings brings up a lot of other questions and a lot of explanations about things that people, is there heaven? Is there hell? Is there, a middle place? Are there lost souls? All that kind of stuff. And I'm going to do videos on all of those. But I've decided that because it's so big and vast, and so many different questions that people have, that this brings up, that I have to kind of do it in sections. So this is just strictly with some explanation about hauntings, and the idea that people seem to think, and this is what I've come to understand, that spirits get attached to places, and they don't. Now, what can happen is, let's say someone is mistreated and I've done a house cleansing like this in a home, People didn't really care about them. They kind of grew old and died on their own, and they kind of feel disrespected. So now this new family, yes, I know this is going to sound very much like Beetlejuice, but it's not. But it does sound like it. But they kind of feel, okay, this people just moved in, and pretty much nobody has acknowledged that I died here. So it's not like they want to haunt those people and make their life hell. It's just kind of like if you feel like you went through this horrible thing, the person was dying and they were sick and their family didn't really treat them, and nobody's even kind of even mentioned it. You're just kind of like, I left this job or I left this life. And, it's the same feeling. I'm just trying to break it down to like what we can understand in this world, because people think when people die that they suddenly just become all knowing and these, Puritans, and they don't. They're still having to learn and grow and understand their life when they were here and even this new existence. So sometimes people just are hurt and their energy, okay? So because their frequency and their energy, and they're kind of like, imagine if you get angry or you get really upset and you want to cry, you have a release. Your anger might come out in a scream, or you might hit something. The same thing if you're emotional, you say, okay, I want to cry, and tears come out, right? Well, if you're a spirit, it's just all energy. So you push your energy into a certain way and it connects to other energy. So this is why oftentimes when I have found when there's activity, it will usually be around electrical devices, like TVs, and even I call them hot boxes, but what I'm talking about. I'm talking about utility boxes, where all the flip the switch on lights and such and things. But that's my term for it. But sometimes they're in the garage, sometimes they're in the home. A lot of times I will find, and people will tell me, I'll say, have you been having activity? Where's your hot box? That's what I like to call it, because it is, for me, not just trying to be technical about what that term is, but it is a hot spot, not because some crazy thing happened there, but because it's an electrical portal. So these electrical devices and hot spots are really just electricity. And if you're electricity and energy and you plug into it, it shoots your energy a little louder. So a lot of times what spirits do is they're just kind of trying to do that. And the same with water, because I've had a lot of experiences where people's like pipes break and they're having a lot of water activity problems, and that's because water is an energy form as well that is easy for them to manipulate. So they're just kind of amplifying their energy, plugging into the nearest hotspot, and it starts to cause havoc into your home. Now, those are spirits, again, that might be like, I died here, nobody seemed to care. I kind of want someone to know I'm around. And I'm not saying, and I'll get to in a minute, that there aren't angry spirits that kind of feel like they don't care about evolving and growing and understanding themselves, and they're just more caring about, wanting someone to really get scared because they're angry. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but more than often it's not that to that point, and I'm going to cover that. So this is the first thing. Your family, your members, the people that in your life who love you, who want to speak to you, are not going to try to freak you out. They may accidentally freak you out because you're just not used to like an energy sense of someone in your room, or a light flickering, or a door making a sound, and they're just trying to kind of get your attention in a very gentle way. But of course, people get very, very weirded out. So oftentimes when I do these cleansings, I'll have to say, spirits, you're not doing the right thing. Not your family, but other spirits who are like, I don't really care if I weird them out. With your family member, I've had people say, well, I felt my grandma, but then I freaked out and screamed, and then it never happened again. And yeah, because grandma doesn't want to scare you. That's not her purpose. And there is spiritual law where spirits are not supposed to completely interfere with this realm yet. And the awakening we're going through, and the understanding and acceptance of that there is another realm within this realm, is to get to a place where it can be like Star Wars, where Yoda shows up, or Harry Potter, where it's just kind of normal that there's an existence beyond here and the realms collide. So we're not there yet. And so, since we're not there yet, well, I mean, I have this happen a lot in my world, but that's kind of what I do and I'm comfortable with it. So, your family doesn't want to scare you, and you can gauge with your family and loved ones or anyone you feel close to how much you want them to, make these kind of contacts with you. And you can even say, I don't want to see you, I don't want to be touched, I don't want to, have something crazy happen, I just rather have it subtle. And then always kind of ask for whatever you believe in, whatever your belief system is of protection around you. Say, okay, I only want these particular groups to communicate. If you don't want any communication, you can demand that as well. So then there's the ones that are, I call them naughty little boys and girls, who are like, well, I think it's kind of funny and kind of fun to freak people out and to, watch them jump. And those are times when I do cleansing, and there's two types. Some, they're the ones that I described in the other video about ghosts and spirits, where ghosts don't know, which there's a difference between ghosts and spirits, and ghosts don't realize that they're doing this and that they've passed, or kind of not all the way there, so to speak. They're kind of stuck in time, and you can watch that video for explanation. And then there's times where they're spirits who very much are aware that they've passed, and they just think it's fun to mess with you. So I've had to talk to those both. One where they're like, well, they're just, I died here and no one cares, and so what's the big deal? All I did was, move the door, or all I did was, flicker the lights. And I would have to explain to them, when you were alive, that was very frightening and alarming, and that, and you need to stop. And sometimes they kind of forget. It's kind of like when people do this with children, they think it's funny, like, oh, here's a puppet talking, or here's a trick where my thumb's coming off my hand, and the kids like freak out because they don't understand it, and we think it's cute and funny and go, oh, they'll understand. That's kind of how spirits look at it, like, well, they, one day they'll understand, or maybe they could just, it's just kind of funny that they just get so freaked out so easily. Can't they just understand it's not that big of a deal? And it's like, same with adults. Hey, you remember how freaky that was when you were a kid? Well, it's a state of awareness. It's a state of consciousness. A state of consciousness just means you leveling up. When people talk about levels and all that kind of stuff, it's not that. It's awareness. It's just like in school. You don't get upset at a kindergartner because they don't understand fourth grade math. You just kind of go, yeah, you don't see yourself better than them. You don't see yourself as a hierarchy. You don't see yourself as like, oh, I'm more evolved than you. You just go, yeah, you're just not, at that place yet. And so with those spirits, I have to kind of say, remind them of all that, and then demand them to stop. Now, what happens with hauntings, where you go, I want to go to this haunted house and I want to go to this haunted hospital. Well, those spirits sometimes are doing all the things I described. It could be spirits that are a little pissed off that no one acknowledged their death. It could be spirits that want to mess with you and all of that. However, what happens is, since nobody talks to spirits normally and really acknowledge their presence, and everyone just thinks, oh, it's over here at this house in this hospital, those spirits, and like I said in the other video, and I'll say it again, all spirits want to talk, by the way. They all like to be heard. Kind of go, hey, everybody's going over to this house, and there are people there going to that house that want to talk to us. And so some of the spirits that are in that place are like connected to that place, and they are kind of like, hey, people want to talk to us, they want us to feel us and all that, and they think it's, cool, funny, why not? And then there's other spirits have nothing to do with that place that are just like, this is a hot spot of where people tend to seem aware and want to talk to us. And so they're like, we don't normally get that, so might as well give it a go. So they will go. And so it's kind of like people going, oh, I want to go look for, I want to go look for, where's all the action? And there's people like, well, these people like a lot of action, let's go there. They don't seem to mind if we yell and scream and cause havoc and do weird things. Those people seem to like it. So let's give them what they want. And then there's spirits who really just don't want to participate in that at all. But most of the time, even in the haunting places, it's hard to understand, but you have to respect them. And when you see people yelling and saying show yourself and demanding, because you're basically treating people like they're enemies, they're just like, no, I'm not going to be a clown for your amusement, and you're not respecting me, and you're not respecting anything about what happened here to me, if that's the case, if it's like happened in that place. But they really just don't like that feeling. And so that's why when you see people yelling or people demanding, you won't see a lot of recordings and things like this of that sort. And even how they feel is, if you came here to like get a wild ride, well, we'll give you a wild ride. Now, that's like when people are going to these quote haunted places. Yes, are there energies there? Absolutely. But it's just like, energy attracts energy. So if everyone's putting a focus on this place, oh, this place has all this crazy stuff happening, other spirits go, well, let's go over there. That's where everybody seems to be. So you got to be careful about, what you're putting your story onto the situation. For one, again, where people tend to kind of make this world that world, and it really isn't. Spirits don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to talk to you at that place. They don't really get stuck. Sorry, excuse me. They don't really get stuck. They get, like, again, I explained that part about ghosts and such in the other video, but, they loop time and things like this. And it's not really getting stuck. It's just not wanting to see their death. And then there's other spirits who are very much aware of it and just trying to make contact or connection, but people get so freaked out. And, I hear this all the time, that people really love this. They want it. They're very, they wish this could happen to them. And I have done classes and I have shown people how to connect. And when that happens, and things start to happen, I've seen time and time again emails of like, oh my God, and people get freaked out. So your loved ones are definitely not trying to freak you out. Some other ones are. So the truth about hauntings is that they're not haunting you. Hauntings to me is like someone, almost like hunting you down and just won't let it go, or just gonna keep, creating havoc just to kind of, just because like almost like, they have no choice, or, they're focused on you. And it's really not that. It's more about if they're feeling like people want this from them, or they're feeling like, what's the big deal? Or they're feeling like, I don't really know that I'm doing this. And so when you have an activity in your home that feels like a loved one, you don't need to call it a haunting. It's signs, which I'll do a video on. If you've gone to like ghost hunting type events and you're like, told that these people are there, they're only being there because everyone is focused on it. And that's the same with cemeteries, which I'll do another video on. It's not like spirits have to only hang out in cemeteries. It's just, this is when you're open, like at Halloween. All kinds of things I'm going to cover, that why these tend to be more active in certain times and places. It has a lot to do with you and your willingness and your focus. And in a particular place, if you go and hear, oh, this place is haunted, that's because that energy keeps getting, fed over and over and over. And so oftentimes it's not even the people that originally were in this place. So that's to say, don't follow so much this kind of, like spirits are these like things that are trying to freak you out or are doing weird, spooky things. It's really just they're raising their frequency, raising their vibration, which I'll explain in another video, and trying to get you to hear that frequency or feel that frequency or see that frequency. They're just kind of hitting all the gamuts of like what is going to get your attention. And I'm going to talk also about signs and things like this in future posts. And I'm sorry to keep mentioning that, but I just want people to know I'll cover those things, because I know this brings up a lot of questions, and a lot of what I do isn't really traditional belief of a lot of people who are into this type of thing. I believe it's frequency, and there's multiple dimensions, and that they're just living in a different world, realm, dimension, whatever you want to call it, and trying to kind of make contact through all of that. And so, yes, it can be alarming, and obviously it can be startling, but you do have control. If you're having too much activity around you and you don't like it, you can demand it to stop. You can't ask and be like, oh, I know that, you lived here before me, but would you mind? You have to say, they're not coming to you, by the way. They're raising their Wi-Fi and their frequency a little louder at times when they think you're open to it, or there's an opening in your energy for you to feel or see them. So spirits don't have to go places because they're an energy. So you can basically just say, I don't want to connect. And so you need to just stop and cut that frequency. So if you're going to go out and you're going to look for this sort of thing, just really, really be aware that, don't focus so much on the place or the house or who lived there. Kind of just focus on that this has become a hot spot for people who are interested in connecting to that realm. Because a lot of times it could even be your people who are like, I just thought since you're open to this at this time, that I wanted to try and get your attention. So think about that. So I'm going to leave this with you. If you have things that are happening in your home and they're very subtle and they feel really good, and you feel like, yeah, it sometimes startles you, but it also brings comfort, then I would embrace that and just talk back. This is the main thing people don't do, is they don't talk back and say, I see it's you, I feel it's you, and you can set the parameters and the rules. So that is my video on the truth about hauntings. Subscribe. I'm going to be posting videos at least weekly, if maybe more, we'll see. And you can follow me on Instagram. I post mostly on Instagram, Adele Levine. I do let the posts go to Facebook from Instagram, but that's mostly where I post. And I'm Adele Levine on all social media platforms, actually. And my website is adelelevine.com, which is in the links below. And I'll post up the link again from Bizarre States if you want to see me actually doing something in a home that I was describing the energies that were there. Anyway, thanks again for joining. I hope this was helpful and useful to you. And remember, listen to yourself, listen to your intuition, follow no one. The answers are inside yourself. All we're here to do is service each other. And as spiritual people who do the work I do, we're just here to help unlock those answers that you already know.